Yes, good evening. I can exclusively reveal that one of Britain's most dangerous jihadi terrorists is now a free man.
My name is Mohammed Shah Jahan. I'm 25 years old and I come from Stoke-on-Trent. Many people have called myself a radical or fundamentalist, maybe a terrorist even sometimes. But if they say that I'm a terrorist because I'm calling for my faith, then fair enough. Doesn't mean nothing to me, because if anything, it shows that I'm on the footstep of the Prophet Muhammad, because he was called a terrorist, a fundamentalist as well.
Yeah. So that is Mohammed Shah Jahan. He is the Islamist who tried to blow up the London Stock Exchange, and he has just been released from prison. Yes, that was him appearing in a BBC documentary prior to him being convicted, by the way. He was friends with the Fishmongers Hall jihadi Usman Khan, the Islamist who claimed to have been rehabilitated before stabbing 2 young people to death and being shot dead by police. For some reason, the parole board has decided that Mohammed Shah Jahan has served his time and is now fit to walk amongst us. This is despite him being released in 2019 but recalled to prison for breaching his licence conditions. He planned to do a marauding bomb and gun attack on Christmas Eve in 2012, and he'd also planned to set up a training camp in Pakistan for British militants. One of the people he was jailed alongside was released and then went on to commit that Fishmongers Hall terror attack, as I've said, but another person he was jailed with in 2012 was released in 2019 and then immediately started plotting an Islamist attack to murder members of the public with a pipe bomb and a meat cleaver. Here's the man circled in that picture if you're watching us on TV or online. He's called Mohibur Rahman, and now he's back behind bars. But this is the guy who's just been released, OK? You need to remember that face, I think, given the fact that he is now back out and about. Shah Jahan was refused parole last January, but was granted it earlier this year, despite a prison psychologist previously ruling that he, quotes, had a tendency to overlook the consequences of his actions. Yeah. Well, he's originally from Stoke-on-Trent. He was also accused of planning to attack pubs up there. We now don't know exactly where he is, but the parole board have decided that this card-carrying jihadi lunatic is safe to walk the streets. This is a disaster waiting to happen. He's a jihadi who was intent on indiscriminate mass murder. People with this ideology claim that they love death more than we love life. How on earth can you ever de-radicalise a person like that?
Hello, I'm Bev Turner. Now, it can feel like the money in our bank accounts at the moment does not keep up with the cost of living, and maybe there's a solution. I'm here today with the CEO of TallyMoney, Cameron Parry. Cameron, what is TallyMoney?
Well, Bev, with TallyMoney, you get a current account and a debit card, but instead of pounds, you use milligrams of gold as your everyday money.
So why gold?
Gold traditionally is a great store of value. It has, on average, gone up at over 11% per annum for the last 25 years against the pound. It's tripled in value in the last decade. And in the last 2 years alone, it's increased by 50% against the pound. Banks' savings products just can't compete with that level of growth.
But this isn't just about gold. This is about a currency that you guys have created at TallyMoney. Explain it to me as though I'm an idiot.
So, look, people need to be able to hold their earnings and build their savings in a money that retains its value and remains in their legal control and remains theirs to access, away from government control.
Great. You had me at not exposed to government control.
You should feel safe and happy with your money. You should have peace of mind. The more money you see in your bank balance, and that's the type of thing we're trying to deliver, and give people choice in the type of money they get to use every day.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Cameron. Thank you.
Let's get the thoughts on my panel this evening. We've got former Conservative MP Heather Wheeler, political commentator Jonathan Liss, and the Telegraph's Poppy Coburn as well. Thank you very much for joining us. Poppy, I'll start with you, if that's all right. Is this just an insane decision that puts us all at risk, do you think?
Well, Well, I mean, I think it's like you said, this is a loving death more than life. And I think some people are going to say, look, he served his time in prison, why should he not have a chance to get out? But we know that, you're not going to get rehabilitated in British prisons anymore. We've seen so many examples of people coming in for petty misdemeanours and coming out as Islamists. This guy came in a wannabe terrorist. We really expect that he's come out, a good-natured liberal. I just think it's ridiculous.
Heather, I'll bring you in on this. I mean, it was important to say, so he was given an indeterminate sentence. So this is singularly up to the parole board, the fact that this guy is now back out and about. And two of the people that he was jailed with at the time, one of them went on to commit a terrorist attack, the other one came out and immediately started planning one.
This actually puts indeterminate sentences into a really interesting light because people have been campaigning against them for a very, very long time. Kids 19 who were caught up in a knife fight weren't carrying a knife, but the other 3 kids were. They were given indeterminate sentences, and some of them were still in prison. So people have been campaigning to stop that. So whether this has got wrapped up in that, I don't know, but it's not good enough. And I think the parole board really do need to look at it again.
Yeah, why should the ordinary law-abiding British public have to put up with this card-carrying jihadi lunatic back out and about?
Well, Patrick, as you know, we have whole life sentences for a very small number of crimes and criminals in this country. If you have a whole life sentence, you would have to have done something totally heinous. Now, thank goodness he didn't actually didn't manage to commit whatever atrocity he was planning. If he had managed that, then I dare say he might have been liable for a whole life sentence. Thank goodness he didn't. But the law doesn't work like that. You can just give a whole life sentence.
Maybe it needs changing then.
Look, I take the point that Poppy was making about the problems with rehabilitation in prison, and that's a failure of multiple governments in the prison system that we haven't invested enough resources in rehabilitation. And
you don't think you can rehabilitate a jihadi, can you?
I don't. I like to think that people can have a chance to rehabilitate themselves and that we don't write people off. There are some people for whom that won't be possible and there will always be dangerous to the public, and those people need to be looked at. But I don't think that we can, if they make this decision, presumably they've got evidence and grounds to do so.
OK, but Poppy, do you think we can rehabilitate this jihadi?
No, I don't. And I don't trust the system, even if they were able to rehabilitate him. I mean, OK, let's say that he's out on the streets. He said he's changed. The parole board has gone through everything. He's going to need to be monitored. Well, we already know that our anti-terrorism monitoring services aren't exactly working very well. We've seen that with all the failings to prevent. We saw it with Axel Rudabakana and the Southport murders last year. What irritates me is that I understand there are flaws with the system, but why should ordinary British people have to take a risk when they get on a train, when they commute into London, knowing that this nut job is out there?
Death penalty for jihadis?
I mean, they're terrorists.
What do you reckon?
Well, interestingly, ages ago, I was PPS to the Attorney General. So this will have ended up on the Attorney General's desk for signing off.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. So when you're talking about changing an indeterminate sentence and getting freedom from the parole board, it's signed off.
So in order to educate me on this, and potentially some viewers and listeners as well. So in order for someone who's serving an indeterminate sentence to be released, the Attorney General has to sign off on it?
Yeah, it might be the Solicitor General on the day. Lord Herman might be away on holiday or something, but obviously not now, because this is a couple of months ago now, isn't it? But it would have been signed off by the law officers, yeah.
I mean, so if this guy goes on to commit some kind of terrorist act again on the streets of Britain, does Lord Herman not have to go as a result of this? Does the Attorney General's office, whoever it was on the day who was holding that pen over that piece of paper and signed it, do they not have to go?
Patrick, I don't know what to say to you. Obviously, when you have people who are released and then go on to commit crimes, there has to be some kind of inquiry about the lessons that should be learned. But we don't have the benefit of hindsight all the time, and we can't just keep everybody in prison on the off chance that they go on and commit crimes again. You have to, once people have served their sentence, they get released.
We have some experience of this. So we have Quram Butt, who did the Borough Market terrorist attack, appeared on a Channel 4 documentary called The Jihadi Next Door and unfurled an ISIS flag in Regent's Park. If only there was a way of telling that this guy might go on to do something terrible. Then we've got his mate, right, Usman Khan, who went on to stab 2 people to death at Fishmongers Hall after claiming to have been rehabilitated. Then we've got his other mate, who came out again, then decided to mastermind a foiled pipe bomb attack as well. I mean, there is form for this. I mean, should these people ever really be able to walk the streets again?
I mean, the government warned about this. Jonathan Hall KC, he did a report in 2022, and he said that the last 4 major terror attacks in the UK had committed by people who were either on remand or were actually operating within prisons. So we already know that there are 4 cases of this already happening before.
If I don't know if we were able to play, you know that clip of him that we played from that BBC documentary right at the start of my monologue there, where he goes on to say that essentially, I'm paraphrasing it, but he doesn't really mind being called a terrorist. I think can we just play this again? Because let's have a think about whether or not it's possible to de-radicalise someone like this, because as far as he's concerned, he's serving Allah, isn't he? And Allah will be more important than any human being. So here he is.
My name is Mohammed Shah Jahan. I'm 25 years old and I come from Stoke-on-Trent. Many people have called myself a radical or fundamentalist, maybe a terrorist even sometimes. But if they say that I'm a terrorist because I'm calling for my faith, then fair enough. It doesn't mean nothing to me, because if anything, it shows that I'm on the footstep of the Prophet Muhammad, because he was called a terrorist, a fundamentalist as well.
So that was before any convictions, although, again, there was a way of knowing, wasn't there? But I don't think how can you compete with Allah?
Well, you can't. I'm fascinated whether anybody's done any background checks. Does he have dual nationality? Does anybody know? Is this an opportunity for the Labour government to actually be strong and say, we're going to strip you of your British nationality if you've got Pakistani or Afghani nationality, and you're gone?
Patrick, the point is that there are people who have been radicalised and have been de-radicalised. Some of them to become quite right-wing, actually, if you look in the media. And so I think that if we were to say that on no account can anyone who has been radicalised ever walk the streets again, I think that would be an overcorrection. Now, it's possible that sometimes the parole board, the government gets things wrong. I accept that, but I also think that we have to trust the judgment that the parole board has made, knowing or hoping they would have considered all the evidence.
Would you let him live with you?
Would I let him live with me? I don't know him, Patrick, so no.
You wouldn't let someone like that move in with one of your relatives, or because he's going to have to live somewhere, isn't he? He's going to have to live next door to someone. See, this is the thing. This is what I do think that people on the left don't bother to think about, which is that he is someone. He's quite possibly now Stoke's problem. Do you care about the people of Stoke?
I think that's a provocative question, Patrick. Of course, I care about people in this country.
Have you been to Stoke?
Yes, I have, actually. I don't know why that's relevant either. There are plenty of places in the country that I haven't been to that I also care about, because I care about people and I'm part of this country and I care about the British people. So
it's OK for them to...
No, I don't know why you're putting words in my mouth.
Well, it has to live somewhere, doesn't it?
Yes, exactly.
So you're all right as long as he's not anywhere
Patrick,
near you?
As I've just said, we don't put people in prison for whole life sentences unless they've committed extraordinarily heinous crimes. Now, I'm not against whole life sentences per se. Clearly, he has not merited one in this case under the laws of this land. If you think that we should have whole life sentences for attempted atrocities, that's a conversation we can have.
Blowing up the London Stock Exchange and launching a widespread marauding gun attack, potentially across multiple different cities at the same time, I would argue is about as heinous.
Yes, but intent is not the same as execution under the law.
Grief.
It's not the same as attempted murder is not the same as murder.
Do you agree with that? What do you think, Poppy?
Well, I just think, look, if you look into this guy's modus operandi, he tried to blow up the London Stock Exchange, but he had another idea. He wanted to set up a Pakistani training camp for Islamists in the UK. Why don't we let him do it? Off he goes. Send him to Pakistan. He's no longer our problem.
Well, on that note, there is a wider point here, which is about homegrown radicalisation. So, as far as I'm aware, this guy I think was born around the Stoke area, and we are seeing an increase in this, which is basically British-born jihadis. So, why is that? Do you think? And how can we maybe stop that? Do you have any idea about why that might be happening?
I mean, yeah, even all the way back in the late 90s, we were being called Londistan because we had such a massive problem with Islamist radicalisation in the UK. I mean, it was literally a joke around Europe how bad we had it. I think we've seen less cases of this happening in recent years, mainly because we've jailed a lot of those people, because we cracked down on them really hard in the early 2000s. And that's why I'm so worried about the release of these people. It's not been that we've got really, really good at detecting terror attacks in a way we weren't 30 years ago. It's just that a lot of the people who were radicalised have been behind bars. Do I believe that those people should be walking the streets free to radicalise the new generation of people? No, I don't.
What do you think about that issue of homegrown terrorists?
So, I mean, clearly this is a brilliant scoop that GBNews have got. What I would be really interested to know is he actually still on licence? Because if he's unlicensed, then he will be monitored.
He will be being
absolutely. He will be on
He's
licence.
Yeah, he is. I mean, we've got a statement from the Ministry of Justice.
Okay,
but
that's
yes,
great.
he is
I
on
mean,
licence.
that's really helpful. And apart from anything else, as much as we love getting into the nitty-gritty of this, we need to put people's minds at rest. We can't start running hairs left, right and centre. We've got to make sure that the public will believe that they are going to be looked after and that this chap is going to be monitored down to his toenails. Because if we don't have that from our police and from our different services, let's call them, then we are in a really sad spot. I don't want that to happen in our country.
But that's also the point, because the government knows that if he were to do anything, they would take all of the political flag, apart from any of the moral implications of it. So, of course, they will make sure, as Heather says, that he's monitored and surveilled very closely.
Why do you think we are seeing so much homegrown radicalisation? Because, so for example, when ISIS were in their pomp, we sent obviously people left and went of their own accord, of course. Quite huge numbers of Brits went over there. And a lot of them came back, unfortunately. Huge amounts of them came back to London, actually. Why do you think it is that so many British-born people are now Islamists?
Well, obviously, there's been a big radicalisation of a number of people who are vulnerable people, young people, such as Shamima Begum, for example, who I think should be allowed to come back here to serve trial.
I think, wasn't she?
Well, it doesn't. What are you saying? That's
not vulnerable, particularly. I would have thought.
Well, I think that a lot of young people might be clever and still vulnerable.
She just stuck around and got her results. She probably appeared in a local newspaper around Tower Hamlets saying how well she'd done at school.
I don't think that doing well in school precludes you from being a vulnerable young person who is susceptible to ideologies that can be quite alluring for some people by very charismatic people who are feeding them this bile. I mean, it's just
although,
people
of course,
are people.
You could point out that there is such a thing as being a vulnerable 13-year-old girl, 14-year-old girl, feeling a bit insecure, and actually travelling to Syria and joining ISIS at the height of its powers is something that requires a bit more examination than just maybe they were vulnerable.
Well, I'm not defending her. I'm offering an explanation about how people do get radicalised.
OK. All right. Well, look, there's a lot to unpack here. I wanted to bring that to you because I would expect that probably tomorrow or the day after some of the newspapers are going to pick it up and you're going to see it there. But I also think it's because it's an accident waiting to happen, this. And I thought it was a fascinating angle, the idea that it looks as though this would have had to have been signed off by the Attorney General's office. If anything goes wrong there, where does that blame lie, really? But we have got a statement from the Ministry of Justice saying terror offenders released on licence are under strict supervision and can be returned to prison if they break the rules. To enhance public safety, we're increasing probation funding by 45% by 2028 and plan to recruit 2,300 new officers by March next year. So, there we go. We'll have to wait and see if anything happens. Hopefully it doesn't, but there does appear to be some kind of tragic inevitability about it, like his mates. But